Good evening. I'm Les Hall, the Dean of the USC School of Medicine in Columbia, and I'm so glad that you were able to join us this evening for the 2021 State of the School Address. With all the stress that's going on in our environment right now, this seems like a particularly important time for us to pause, reflect upon, and celebrate some of the fantastic work that is going on within the School of Medicine. It also provides a great opportunity for me to share with you some of the challenges and opportunities that we are facing within the school and to outline steps that we are taking in response to those issues. Let me start with a preemptive apology. I realize that in just a few minutes I cannot possibly cover all of the important work that is underway within the School of Medicine, so it's quite possible that you are involved in work that is extremely important, but that I may not be able to mention this evening. The emergence of the Delta variant has prolonged the COVID-19 pandemic longer than any of us had hoped. From our clinicians who are on the front lines providing care to patients every day, to our teachers who have continued our educational programs, I cannot express my appreciation enough for your efforts. I also know that many of our faculty, staff, and students are not only tired because they're taking on huge tasks and working long hours, but they're navigating complex care issues at home. Every one of you has played some important role in helping us get through this pandemic, and I want to thank you for that, but I also want to especially recognize a few individuals and groups whose contributions have been particularly meaningful. Earlier this year, the Gold Foundation recognized individuals in medical schools across the country who had made particularly noteworthy contributions during the COVID pandemic. 3 of our School of Medicine team members were recognized by them. Dr. Sangeeta Dash, who leads the infection control strategies for our largest teaching hospital, Prisma Health Richland, was recognized for her leadership. Jennifer Evans, our student and employee nurse, helped to organize COVID testing at the School of Medicine, supported by our incredible COVID lab testing team. And John Crane worked with other members of our School of Medicine environmental care team to ensure that our environment was safe for us. Among our healthcare providers, all have added great value, although some have been especially essential to our COVID-19 response. We have all relied very heavily on the ongoing guidance and consultation provided by our adult and pediatric infectious disease teams. Our emergency care providers and our inpatient care teams have borne a disproportionate share of the clinical load during all of our corona surges, including the current one. We are extremely indebted to our adult and pediatric hospitalists and our adult and pediatric intensivists for their contributions. Every clinical area has had some type of vital role to play over the last 18 months. One area that has never been more important is the behavioral health support, which has been facilitated by our neuropsychiatry team in response to the mental health burden associated with the pandemic. The social isolation and the life disruption we have all experienced in the past few months has caused real suffering not only for people in our community, but for many within our School of Medicine family as well. No one should have to face these challenges alone. The university has made ongoing investments in wellness and support resources a priority. Members of our School of Medicine library faculty have created a great resource page for our School of Medicine, which can be accessed through our School of Medicine coronavirus website. This lists many support services that are available for faculty, staff, and students. I encourage all of you to spend some time reviewing this site. In addition to pursuing their studies, scores of our School of Medicine students have volunteered hundreds of community service hours, ranging from serving meals at transitional housing shelters to assisting with vaccine administration at some of the drive-through vaccine sites. Our Continuing Medical Education Office, in collaboration with the South Carolina Rural and Primary Healthcare Center, has created valuable resources for clinicians who are counseling patients who are experiencing vaccine hesitancy. If you haven't had a chance to review this resource, which was released earlier this month, I encourage you to take a look at it. Regardless of what your role has been, I could not be prouder of all that you have done to help benefit others within the School of Medicine and our community during this pandemic. We'd now like to move to provide some highlights from some areas in the School of Medicine other than just the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm going to first talk about our educational mission, followed by our research mission, then end up with our clinical mission. One of the things I love about the School of Medicine is we're fortunate to have 5 outstanding graduate programs in addition to our medical student programs. And I want to begin our educational update by briefly reviewing highlights from these 5 graduate programs. I'm incredibly proud of our physician assistant program, which is currently led by interim director Rita Dixon. They passed a huge milestone this year as they received a full 10-year accreditation for the program. Our 2021 graduates from the program this year also had an amazing 100% first-time pass rate on their PA board examination. Our nurse anesthesia program is led by Dr. Kevin LeBlanc. This year they are transitioning from their previous master's program to a 36-month training format that will award a Doctor of Nursing Anesthesia Practice degree. Our genetic counseling program is directed by nationally known leader Janice Edwards. Graduates of this program are always in great demand, enjoying a 100% job placement rate for the past 3 years. Our rehabilitation counseling program, directed by Dr. Carrie LaChance, received a full 8-year accreditation last year. Accreditors noted the diversity of our student body and the very high quality of the education that they received. Finally, the School of Medicine Biomedical Science program, directed by Dr. Edie Goldsmith, offers PhD, Master of Science, and certificate programs. Dr. Carol Oskaritsian's teaching excellence was recognized this year with her receipt of the Graduate Teaching Appreciation Award for her contributions to graduate education. I want to turn our attention now to medical student education. This year, we celebrate the 40th anniversary of the graduation of our very first medical student class, and we're currently admitting about 100 students per year to the program. In 2017, as an outgrowth of our strategic planning process, a Curriculum Innovation Task Force was put together made up of faculty, students, and others from the School of Medicine, co-chaired by Marlene Wilson and Kaufman Taylor. They were charged with conducting a comprehensive review of our curriculum and recommending enhancements. After a year-long process, they made recommendations to the Curriculum Committee, the vast majority of which were accepted and have been implemented over the past 3 years. Some of the key changes in the curriculum brought about by this process include integration of earlier clinical learning activities, strengthening ties between the basic science and clinical learning, restructuring major elements of the M1 and M2 curriculum to create greater synergy, and an increased emphasis on the social determinants of health. In the M1 year, Dr. Erica Blanc has worked with our anatomy and histology faculty to create a new foundational anatomy course. This is now the 2nd year in which this course is being taught in the first semester of the M1 year. Drs. Edie Goldsmith and Britt Wilson oversee major portions of the curriculum in the 2nd semester of the M1 year. Dr. James Cook teaches Introduction to Clinical Medicine in both Year 1 and Year 2, and Dr. Jack Goldsmith teaches Application of Clinical Evidence in Years 1 and 2. I know this is a busy slide, but this represents the new curriculum for the M2 year, which is now organized around organ systems rather than by discipline. For instance, we are just nearing the completion of the current cardiovascular block, where students are learning the pathophysiology, pharmacology, and pathology of the cardiovascular system simultaneously. The 5 M2 block directors pictured on this slide are amazing educators. Over the course of this past year, even while they've been teaching major segments of the old curriculum, they have been reorganizing the entire M2 course of study, working right through the summer break. Thanks to their hard work and preparation and the support of Drs. Harvey and Thornhill, this year is off to a good start for our M2 students. Dr. Brian Kiesler oversees our M3 and M4 clinical learning processes. Over the past year and a half, the agility and leadership displayed by Dr. Kiesler, our clerkship directors, and our clinical faculty have helped our students to navigate a very rapidly changing clinical environment. Our clinical partnerships and all of our clinical faculty are essential to the clinical training that we provide. In Columbia, Prisma Health and the Columbia VA system are our largest clinical partners, while in Florence, McLeod Health and MUSC Florence provide the largest number of clinical training opportunities. Speaking of the Florence campus, this was established as a branch campus of our School of Medicine 6 years ago and is now led by Dr. Alan Sexton. During most years, we have a combined 18 to 20 third and fourth year students in Florence, and we anticipate that number will probably rise over the next 2 to 3 years. The School of Medicine integrated ultrasound curriculum has been a point of pride for the School of Medicine Columbia since it was first introduced by Dr. Dick Hopman well over a decade ago. Dr. Trip Bell now leads our Ultrasound Institute, providing hands-on ultrasound training to our students, including both medical students and clinical graduate students, and also many of our resident physicians. A new first-of-its-kind textbook, which was recently released, highlights the role of ultrasound in understanding physiology. This book is co-edited by Drs. Britt Wilson, Dr. Richard Hopman, and Dr. Trip Bell. We have two simulation centers, one located on the VA campus and one on the Prisma Health Richland campus, that provide opportunities for clinical skills training for our students, residents, and faculty members. Dr. Felicia Harvey serves as both our Assistant Dean for Preclinical Curriculum and as the Director of our Student Success and Wellness Center, which was established in 2018. Our most recent graduating class, which is the first class to really fully benefit from the presence of the Student Success Center, now rated us above the national average in satisfaction with the tutoring support offered by the school. Dr. Donna Raid leads many of our School of Medicine faculty development efforts. This summer she collaborated with the School of Medicine in Greenville and the Center for Teaching Excellence at USC to deliver a reflective teaching practice for medical educators course with a number of our faculty participating. This program was highly successful and we will plan to repeat it in the summer of 2022. We have a number of our faculty who have been recognized in the past year for their outstanding teaching with School of Medicine Teaching Awards. Faculty recognized include basic science faculty as well as clinical faculty from our Columbia campus and our Florence campus. It is exciting to me to see a mixture of well-established educators and relatively new faculty members being recognized for their outstanding contributions to teaching excellence. One of the benchmarks we follow to assess our student success is first-time board pass rates on Step 1, Step 2, and Step 3 of the medical board exam. Over the past 3 years, our School of Medicine students have been at or above the national average in first-time pass rates in 10 of 12 examination cycles. Another important outcome for our graduating medical students is the residency match rate. Over the past 5 years, the School of Medicine graduating class match rate has averaged above the national mean. Our LCME accreditation is essential to the School of Medicine in Columbia, and we are currently midway through an 8-year accreditation cycle. Dr. Mary Furch produces an annual School of Medicine program assessment and CQI report, helping us to maintain our preparedness on an ongoing basis. She draws on internal information, student surveys, and AAMC benchmarking data to systematically track areas of concern. Some of the areas identified on which we have been working include portions of our basic science curriculum, staffing and support levels for student services, financial aid and curricular affairs, faculty diversity, and student research opportunities. Dr. Eric William leads our School of Medicine Student Services Office, and Jarrell Arsenault leads our Office of Financial Aid. They have responded to student feedback by adjusting services, and both will be adding additional staff to their teams over the course of the next few months to better support our students. For more than a decade, Dr. J.T. Thornhill's leadership has produced growth in our educational programs, benefiting both our Columbia and Florence campuses. As the Associate Dean for not only medical education but academic affairs, he also oversees our accreditation processes and writes the School of Medicine letters for promotion and tenure. These graphs demonstrate the increase in satisfaction noted by our graduating students over the last 2 years with the responsiveness of the Student Affairs and Curricular Affairs offices. I credit both Dr. Williams and Thornhill and their entire staff from their offices for seeing the improvement that we've noted in the past year. Beginning this next year, Dr. Thornhill will increase the amount of time spent on his academic affairs role as we begin preparations for our next LCME survey. Because of that, we are in the process of recruiting a new Associate Dean for undergraduate medical education. We hope to have that leader on site by early 2022. Two other educational metrics that we have been watching in recent years that I would like to mention are students participating in research projects with faculty numbers. That number rose to 62% this year, which is a significant improvement. However, we are still well below national averages. We are seeking ways in the coming years to increase research opportunities within our clinical environment. Secondly, we have been monitoring graduates who report experiences related to health disparities. At the time of our strategic plan, we were running below the national average, and we have actually gotten very close to the national median in our most recent data. In 2021, U.S. News ranked the School of Medicine Columbia as #1 nationally in the percentage of our graduates who are practicing in underserved areas. University of South Carolina illuminated the lights on the top of the capstone building in order to honor this School of Medicine distinction. Part of our success in serving the underserved areas is an outgrowth of contributions that have been made for several years by the South Carolina Center for Rural and Primary Health Care. They've helped us to increase access to specialty care in many rural areas. They've promoted rural health scholarship programs, have developed educational sites, and have stimulated rural health research. In the area of graduate medical education, we're very fortunate to have Dr. Chuck Carter leading our residency and fellowship programs at Prisma Health in the Midlands. Prisma Health Midlands had a 100% fill rate for their residency programs during the March 2021 match. We have an outstanding CME Continuous Professional Development Office that is led by Dr. Matt Orr. The CME office received the highest accreditation possible this year with a 6-year accreditation with commendation. I want to shift our focus now from education to research. During our 2017 strategic planning process, a term that was used a lot during our discussions about our research ambitions was that we wanted to do research that matters. To me, this means research that addresses healthcare needs that reflect the greatest needs of our state. One of our most successful research areas is immunology, focusing on the role of inflammation in the genesis of cancer, autoimmune disease, and reaction to toxins. Drs. Missy and Prakash Nagakarty lead a Phase 2 COBRA grant, along with a large center grant focusing on complementary and integrative medicine. They work with an outstanding team of researchers who have been very successful in establishing independent funding. In the spring of 2020, Dr. Clinton Webb joined the School of Medicine as the director of the newly established Cardiovascular Translational Research Center. Partial funding for this new center was provided as one of the USC Excellence Initiatives, with the proposal for that advanced by Dr. Frank Spinelli, our Associate Dean for Research. 17 School of Medicine faculty are already affiliated with the new Cardiovascular Center, and faculty from at least 5 additional U of SC colleges or schools have also formed affiliations. Another important research focus area is neurosciences. Over the past few years, Dr. Marlene Wilson, the chair of our Pharmacology, Physiology, and Neuroscience Department, has assembled a group of outstanding neuroscience researchers whose success continues to grow. A very important grant for the School of Medicine is the South Carolina EMBRA grant, which is led by Drs. Holly Lavoie and Dr. Edie Goldsmith, working with 14 member institutions to advance research throughout the state of South Carolina. We're very fortunate at the School of Medicine to have an excellent instrument resource facility led by Dr. Bob Price. The School of Medicine IRF is widely viewed as one of the top core facilities within the university community. Within the past 2 years, we've also added Dr. Sujit Pujari to our research team, overseeing the viral vector core for the School of Medicine. Several of our faculty have created biotechnology startups to provide more opportunities for development and dissemination of their discoveries. One example is a startup company formed by Drs. Fan and Murphy with a colleague from the College of Pharmacy. The overall numbers of disclosures and patents by School of Medicine faculty have risen substantially over the past 3 years. In fact, they've almost doubled since 2018. The leading departments for disclosures and patents are the PMI department, the CBA department, and the internal medicine department. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the great contributions to research that come from our biomedical science graduate students. A great example of that is Jennifer Erickson, who received an NIH F31 grant within the past year and was just recognized by U of SC as a breakthrough graduate scholar. I am very pleased that we are welcoming an increased number of PhDs and Master of Science students to the School of Medicine this fall. So how's the School of Medicine doing overall in grant productivity? One of the metrics that's frequently tracked for medical schools is the amount of National Institutes of Health or NIH funding, which in this graph is represented by the lower line. During fiscal year 21, the School of Medicine produced just over $14 million in NIH research funding, which is our highest level in 5 years. Total federal funding was just under $33 million, although this number includes not only research dollars, but some federal service grants. In addition, we have seen a significant increase in the number of VA research awards over the past 2 years, with a total of 9 VA studies funded in fiscal year 2021. Many of you are probably aware that University of South Carolina's strategic plan aspires to increase research productivity at the university to approach that of public universities that are part of the Association of American Universities, or the AAU. The AAU is an invitation-only group of 66 leading U.S. and Canadian schools that are considered to be the elite research institutions in North America. The most important Phase 1 indicators for admission to the AAU include federal funding level of research, membership in national academies, high-level faculty awards, and scholarly citations. Our School of Medicine has 5 other medical school peer institutions of similar size and scope against which we compare ourselves for purposes of research productivity. And you see that we compare reasonably favorably to these other institutions. However, we were asked this year by the university to identify 5 peer aspirant institutions, all of whom were public members of the AAU, and these are the 5 institutions that we have identified. When you compare our School of Medicine's research productivity to these schools, it is not nearly as flattering of a picture. These medical schools have NIH research productivity ranging from 1.5 to as much as 7 times our current level. So how do we account for these differences? One obvious difference between us and these peer aspirants is that they have more basic science faculty members than we have at the USC School of Medicine in Columbia. In fact, some of them have as many as 3 times the number of basic science faculty that we have. Many also have larger clinical research enterprises, and most, if not all, are getting substantial resources invested in their research enterprise through their universities, their health system partners, state governments, or philanthropy. I am in good conversations with our USC leadership about how the School of Medicine can continue to contribute to USC's clinical productivity, and there is a broad understanding that if we are going to rise to the level of these peer aspirants, it will require additional investment into our research work at the School of Medicine. Another academic output that we track is scholarly productivity, especially in terms of publications. Ruth Riley and Frank Spinelli has helped us to refine the methodologies for tracking School of Medicine publications over the last 3 years, and we have seen that there has been an increase of about 50% between 2018 and 2020. I want to say a word about clinical research, which I believe is often complementary and synergistic with our basic science research efforts. There has been a growth in some of the partnerships with Prisma Health and our VA healthcare system over the course of the last few years, and much of that has been facilitated by individuals such as Dr. Kevin Bennett, Dr. Julian Kim, and Dr. Frank Spinelli. We also have a group of clinical vice chairs who meet with me monthly in the Academic Vice Chairs Council, and they fill a critical role within the clinical departments in supporting research and educational endeavors. The Research Center for Transforming Health, which is led by Dr. Kevin Bennett, was established 4 years ago to foster collaboration with our clinical partners, with the VA Medical Center, and with other USC colleges and schools. They help to host the Emerging Physician Scientists Mentoring Program. They provide summer research opportunities through the SOAR program, and they were the primary facilitators of the 2021 USC Prisma Health Seed Grant process, in which approximately $160,000 was distributed to 8 research teams for seed grant projects. If you look at the seed grant projects that were awarded in 2021, 6 of them included School of Medicine faculty, representing faculty from OBGYN, pulmonary critical care, infectious disease, surgery, and the PMI department. We anticipate that within the next month we will be getting the call for proposals for the next seed grant cycle from 2021 to 2022, and we hope we'll have many of our faculty participate in that process as well. Virtually every department is conducting important clinical research, but I want to highlight just a few that I believe are of a national caliber and really worth a mention as we think about points of pride. Our infectious disease research team is doing high-quality research on viral diseases such as HIV and hepatitis C. They also are known throughout the country for their work on how to improve efficacy of antimicrobial therapy in hospitalized patients. Our antibiotic stewardship program is considered one of the best in the country. We have important research going on in clinical cardiology as well. interventional cardiologist Kurt Beringhaus is leading several interventional cardiology trials. We have a heart failure team led by Patrick McCann, who is an extremely clinically busy team, but they're also recognized as one of the leaders in the country on research on left ventricular assist devices and implantable devices to provide remote monitoring of heart failure patients. In neurology, Dr. Suvik Sen, our Smart State Chair of Neurology, is a nationally known stroke researcher who has done multiple stroke intervention trials. This includes the Premier's NIH trial, which is nearing its completion. In vascular surgery, Prisma Health and USC have collaborated to do multiple interventional trials on peripheral vascular disease, including the PROMISE 2 trial, which uses innovative techniques to decrease the rate of limb amputation. In research, Dr. Ben Jackson has received a $2.9 million grant from the Department of Defense to study ways to improve recovery time after stress fractures in military personnel. In both pediatric and adult endocrinology, we are blessed to have experienced researchers contributing to clinical trials in the persons of Dr. Knight in pediatrics and Dr. Joaquin Ledo in adult endocrinology. So clearly we'd like to continue to grow grant productivity at the School of Medicine, Columbia, and really what are the steps we need to undertake in order to do that? Well, some of the keys are continue growing our basic science faculty through ongoing recruitment. We need better retention efforts for our outstanding faculty. We are looking at options for merit-based compensation that we hope to put into place in early 2022, which will allow us to give extra compensation to our most highly productive research faculty. There are plans underway for at least 2 and maybe 3 program project grant submissions within the next 18 months in the School of Medicine. As mentioned previously, we're working to increase our graduate students. And long term, we believe within 5 years we will have a new biomedical research building as part of the Bull Street Health Sciences campus. Diversity and inclusion have been a strategic focus of our medical school since 2017. For the past academic year, it was actually the primary focus of our School of Medicine strategic planning efforts. Under the leadership of Dr. Carol McMahon and Dr. Robert Reinhart, some of the areas we have been working on since 2017 include the creation and enhancement of pipeline programs, search committee training on implicit bias, faculty and postdoctoral fellow hiring incentives for our basic science departments, investments in faculty development for our minority faculty, and expansion of fundraising efforts for scholarships. So how does our School of Medicine measure up when you look at diversity data? Well, this shows our current percentage of faculty and senior administrative staff who are underrepresented minority, with 8% of faculty and 10.8% of senior administrative staff. And although these are relatively comparable to national averages, when you look at the population of South Carolina, which is made up of 30% underrepresented minorities, none of us would say that this is the goal we wish to achieve. We are also at a position where 40% of our faculty are women, but again, we feel like that number will likely continue to rise and should continue to rise over the course of the coming years. When you look at our medical student data, if you look at the average number of underrepresented minority medical students for the last few years, we are at or near the national averages, but that is actually changing in the last couple of years where we have struggled to matriculate students who are underrepresented minorities. In both 2020 and 2021, we offered admission to 25 underrepresented minority students each year, but only 20% of those offers were accepted. We asked those students the reason that they were unable to accept the admission to the School of Medicine here. The number one reason was competitive scholarship offers from other schools of medicine. The reality is many schools have the resources to offer full tuition scholarships to underrepresented minority students. We are not allowed to use funds from student tuition or state appropriations for scholarship, so we must continue to rely on philanthropic support. And although diversity scholarship has been our number one fundraising priority for the last 2 years, we still have a ways to go there. We are currently pursuing multiple pathways to increase diversity scholarships. We have engaged foundations, our clinical partners, and individual donors in making the case for why this is essential to the future success of our School of Medicine and, more importantly, to the future workforce of South Carolina. I do believe we are making inroads with these conversations, and I'm optimistic that in time, additional resources will become available. We are also taking additional steps to increase faculty diversity and ongoing innovation to our curriculum in areas of diversity, equity, and inclusion is occurring. We realize that no amount of money will solve a diversity and inclusion problem if we do not also have a welcoming culture. Earlier this year, I shared with you School of Medicine key observations from the Climate Task Force, which was co-led by Matt Orr and Gloria Johnson. We are now in the process of implementing recommendations from the Climate Task Force report, which was released this spring. Some of the actions taken thus far or in progress are: a School of Medicine climate survey was conducted in summer of 2021. We're in the process of establishing a standing culture and climate committee, which will be complemented by a new School of Medicine staff council. We are reorganizing and increasing support for School of Medicine communications, especially to allow us to add new web-based resources to our School of Medicine website. Finally, we turn our attention to the clinical mission. One of my core beliefs is that we cannot provide outstanding clinical education, nor can we conduct world-class clinical research in an environment that does not provide outstanding care. We fortunately have many areas within our healthcare clinical environment that do provide exemplary care. One of those is pictured in this slide. This is a portion of the interprofessional team that works at the 1801 Internal Medicine Clinic, and they have modeled great interprofessional care for many of the learners who rotate through that environment. We are blessed to have the largest, most comprehensive children's hospital in the state of South Carolina, with just some of the services offered noted on this slide. In neuroscience, we have a very busy stroke center. As Dr. Sen likes to tell me, we not only live in the stroke belt, but on some days it seems like we are in the buckle of the stroke belt. We have about 1,600 code strokes per year of patients who seek care at our facilities. We have a Joint Commission Comprehensive Stroke Center certification, meaning we are the most prepared that is possible to provide care to these patients, and that is supported by the region's most diversified neurosurgical team, who is the most amazing team of neurosurgeons that I have ever personally had a chance to work with. Likewise, in cardiology, we have an amazing group of providers, over 50 strong, who provide subspecialty care, and in addition, they are supported by an outstanding cardiovascular surgery team at the Heart Hospital. In orthopedics, we have a team of almost 70 practitioners practicing in the Midlands, providing both ambulatory and inpatient subspecialty care. And I would challenge you to find a more talented group of orthopedic practitioners anywhere in the Southeast than what we have here in Columbia. In family medicine and primary care, Jamie Steen and her team in family medicine have been redefining high-quality, easy-access primary care for the Midlands. In the inpatient arena, internal medicine and family medicine have collaborated to form an addiction consultative team that helps with patients who are addicted and are admitted to the hospital for any reason. And their positive outcomes from this intervention were reported actually this month in the American Journal of Medicine. Our OBGYN teams not only provide the widest array of women's health services in the area, but Dr. Campbell and his faculty are also collaborating on a $2 million Blue Cross Blue Shield grant and a recently funded NIH grant to improve maternal and fetal health. Dr. Narisimhan in neuropsychiatry is leading creative, highly innovative work to embed behavioral health professionals within primary care practices. After 2 decades without employed oncologists within our system, Dr. Wiseman, with the support from Dr. Julian Kim, is creating a new team of medical oncologists who will support patient care, oncology research, and medical education. Thanks to the great leadership of Derek Payne, who serves as our Assistant Dean for Finance and Administration, and the good management of all of you, I'm pleased to say that the School of Medicine is in a sound financial position. This has been a hard year throughout the country for many universities and many schools of medicine, but I think because of the great financial leadership we have had, we are actually in a very good position. I asked Derek to lead a financial budget task force which was assembled last summer, and they found efficiencies that could be introduced throughout the year, And as a result of that, we now have accrued some resources that we're able to reinvest in School of Medicine faculty, staff, and students to address strategic needs. I want to turn to one last very exciting area, which is looking ahead to our new Health Sciences campus. As you know, we've been talking about a new Health Sciences campus for several years, but I think we are finally on the cusp of this vision becoming a reality. If things go as I believe they will over the next 4 to 5 years, we believe a new medical education building and a new biomedical science research building will be established in the northeast sector of the Bull Street development, just 2 blocks from the Prisma Health Richland campus. This is a busy slide that you'll want to take a little time to study, but this is the projected timeline that U of SC has identified as the likely timeline for construction of the new facilities on the Bull Street Health Sciences campus. U of SC hopes to identify a design and construction partner by the spring of 2022. They will conduct programming and design throughout 2022 and then obtain final approval and begin site prep in 2023. Ground will be broken in early 2024, and if all goes as planned, we should be able to move into the new School of Medicine building in either late 2025 or early 2026. I am pleased to say that we have had our first $1 million donors to the new School of Medicine campus. Dr. Charles S. and Donna H. Bryan recently gifted $1 million to support the new Health Sciences campus, and the School of Medicine library is being named in their honor as a result of this gift. Dr. Ruth Riley and our Senior Development Director, Kim Riggy, had a key role in helping to facilitate this important gift. In the past few minutes, I hope you have caught a glimpse of just why I'm so optimistic about the future of the School of Medicine. Yes, we've been through a tough time. I know we have a ways to go before the COVID pandemic is behind us. However, I have never been prouder of any team with whom I have worked in my life than I have been of the School of Medicine team over the last year and a half. This is a good time to be in the School of Medicine. Our students, our faculty, our staff, and our alumni are doing so much to positively impact our environment, our state, and our nation. As Dr. Pastitas recently reminded us in a conversation earlier this week, our goal is not just to survive this year, our goal is to thrive. With the talented students, faculty, and staff that we have at the School of Medicine, I believe we are very well positioned to do just that. I want to thank you for joining us for this State of the School presentation this evening. If you have questions about any of these updates that I have shared this evening, you can submit your questions to me via a link that will be forwarded to all School of Medicine faculty, staff, and students tomorrow. Thank you, and I hope you have a great evening.